What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one wants to talk about what's happening with the overall market as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech very soon, not to mention some big announcements coming out from Donald Trump that could shake the markets. Well, it's going to break down why I'm a little concerned about the patterns we're seeing so far, but just know that I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And don't forget about my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. Deposits $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30. The offer ends at the end of March. Anyways, let's talk about this market so far. Looking at Tesla, we're on a bit of a downtrend right now. We did get one good piece of news and one negative piece of news, at least so far. But looking right now, Tesla's going to likely gap down. When we gap down, there might be a little push upon open. This is what Tesla loves to do. It loves to kind of push it during these opens, then dips later on during the day. So we'll see if Tesla kind of pushes back up to like the low 350s before it continues to dip down to fill this gap around 345. So I do expect a little bit more downside looking at the current trend. But what's happening so far? The bad news for Tesla is the fact that their Australian sales also fell. There's all these headlines coming out that their sales are falling, and they're blaming Elon Musk for it and his politics. I did talk about this yesterday, so I'm not going to go into the full details. But I just want to say that the same headlines are still circulating right now. They're all over the news that Musk is, on this side in terms of politics and this and that. Not the best for Tesla. I already said that, yes, there is an aspect of this that's true, but you can't just pin everything on him because we have to wait and see what happens when the Model Y refresh comes out and see if this could help offset the decrease in their sales. Now, on top of this, we had some good news about how Tesla's battery mega factory in Shanghai has launched production. That's a good piece of news that's come out as well, at least thus far. So Tesla has these mega packs, and they have launched production so far, expanding the overall scope of things, which is quite good as well. With annual production capacity of about 10,000 units, that's going to help them continue to grow. And there's high demand for Tesla energy as we're seeing this sector grow a lot. I think it's very, very bullish news, at least for the longer term. And that's awesome to see, at least thus far. So we're seeing the Megapack factory continuing to expand right now, and Tesla's overall capacities will continue to grow as more demand comes in. Now, for the overall market at 10 o'clock a.m., we have Jerome Powell giving a testimony today. Besides that, there's nothing else that's too crazy. So 10 a.m. is 30 minutes after the stock market opens. That's very soon. We have Powell's testimony. What's happening? Jerome Powell is going to be coming in front of the U.S. Senate today. He's going to give his little speech, and then after that, he's going to be answering a lot of questions. They're going to hammer at him. They're going to try to attack him. They're going to try to get him to talk about tariffs, about rate cuts, and all these different things like inflation. So we'll see what he says. He tends to be very ambiguous. He tends to be very, very closed and not want to give away too much information. But we'll see how that affects the markets, Tesla, and everything else like this. But I want to give you guys a warning, okay, at least for SPY and the markets. We're at resistance, and I do see a possible head and shoulders right here. There's like a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. We do have this gap to fill down here on SPY. So this setup is a little bit more bearish. If Powell can help us break past 608, we could invalidate this. If he can't cause that, this will likely continue to dip. Why? Because number one, Jerome Powell, whatever he says could affect us. Number two, there's this news that's come out. The EU is saying that they're going to retaliate immediately if Donald Trump imposes new tariffs. So please keep that in mind. Donald Trump has announced that today or tomorrow, he's going to be announcing reciprocal tariffs on different countries, which could include EU countries. It could be including India or many Asian countries from Japan, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan, and the list goes on. When Donald Trump announces these tariffs, it's likely going to be a bearish catalyst for the markets for the short term, especially because the EU is saying they're going to retaliate again, which is going to be affecting American business. And it's also going to be affecting a lot of different aspects of our economy, which I've already talked about in the past. So I'm not going to go over every detail, but just know it's a little bearish looking, and this could cause a little bit of a dip in the markets. I do anticipate that, at least for now. For earnings, real quick, we had Shopify and Coca-Cola. Shopify ended up seeing the share price dip because of the fact that their Q1 guidance was not very impressive in the eyes of investors. They did beat when it comes to their earnings, so they did relatively well, at least for the current earnings that they told us about. We also saw their revenue at $2.81 billion above expectations. However, for their guidance, they're looking for revenue to increase by 25%. That's below the expectation of 41 to 42%. So, despite the strong reports, unfortunately, we did not meet all expectations, and Shopify is down. Coca-Cola is doing well, however, because of the fact that their growth was stronger than anticipated. Organic growth is going to be about 5 to 6%. That is not bad whatsoever. That's actually better than what some analysts were expecting. So that is why Coca-Cola is in the green, good earnings and good guidance, whereas Shopify had good earnings but not the best guidance. That's why the share price is weaker. With that being said, what do I see for the share price, at least for all these overall stocks? I'm going to be kind of quick with this. So for Tesla, I'm a little concerned about this. I think it's going to get dragged down by SPY and the QQQ. We're still looking bearish on the 4-hour and also on the daily chart. There's no sign of a bounce yet. We could rebound just a tiny bit once we open to try to retest like 350 or very close to it before we continue to fill this gap at 345. If that doesn't hold us, then we could be dipping to about 340 flats or below. Then balance take us down to like 335. So nonetheless, Tesla looks a little bit more bearish looking at the break from this bearish wedge. And because we're continuing to fall with all this negative news about their sales and Elon Musk. For now, we're looking bearish, might bounce a little bit upon open by a couple of points before it continues to dip lower. For now, the bears have an edge, especially because when you look at SPY, we also have this head and shoulders. So when you look at the 4-hour, we're looking a little bit more bearish in terms of technicals, but this depends on what Jerome Powell, the big guy, says, and Donald Trump. If Donald Trump imposes those tariffs today, that's not going to be the best. I think he will do it very soon. And then if he does do it to the EU, they're going to retaliate. So that's not the best of news. So I'm looking at this head and shoulders to play out right now. This is the current setup. We're looking for essentially 600. If that fails us, I think we could be dipping to like 596. I'm going to be looking for a dip. Now, if Jerome Powell or Donald Trump cause us to break 608, then the head and shoulders is off. We turn bullish and we could be looking for like 610 plus. But keep in mind, it's unlikely because every time we're hitting 608 to 610, we've rejected. We also touched it a couple of days ago and we have not been able to crack past it. So it's more favorable to bet on the downside, not financial advice, but that's what I'm seeing. On the QQQ, we have like a double top right here. Unless we break 528 to 530, this is favoring the downside for like 524, 521, and eventually low levels like 518. So there could be some downside coming. For the Russell, similar setup, looks a little bit weaker here. We need to hold 225. If not, we could be dipping closer to like the lower 220s to fill that gap. So we'll keep that in mind. Unless we break past 227 to turn bullish, we're favoring downside a little bit more. On ES, same setup. Okay, notice that ES is at resistance, right? We had this resistance rejected, bounced, and then we hit this resistance, we're rejecting again. There's also a left shoulder ahead and then a right shoulder. So this is favoring 60.46 to be tested. If that does not hold us, we could be dipping down to 6,000, then basically like 59.80. For NQ, same thing. Resistance at 22,000. We tend to reject near there. We rejected. We're kind of rejecting a bit here. We're going to be watching 21,680. If that does not hold us, we're looking for 21,570 or below. So the odds do favor that, kind of tipping a little bit. Bitcoin's trying to dip right here. We need to try to get back above 98,000. Otherwise, we favor a move back down to 95,000 or below. For Nvidia needs to hold above 133. If we could break that, I'm looking for this gap fill. As of right now, it's kind of dipping with the market a bit. It might dip closer to like 130 than 128 before it tries to bounce. It's very resilient, but if the whole market comes down with new tariffs, this also depends on what Donald Trump announces. Like, if he gives us more tariffs on like Taiwan, it's not going to be the best for Nvidia. So there could be a small temporary pullback before it tries to bounce later on, especially if we have that gap above to fill. So keep that in mind. I already went over Tesla just to keep in mind this is looking kind of bearish. May try to bounce a little bit once we open, but then likely it's going to continue to dip. It's still looking kind of weak. So get ready for the tariff announcement. Apple is pushing right now. It's about 230. That's only up about 0.8%. So it's not that good. But look at resistance closer to about the low 230s and support at 226. We're in a range right now going back and forth. But if new tariffs come, this could still lose 226 to start dipping more. For just a few more of these, let's go over just like Coinbase and just a couple of them. Coinbase is looking a little bit weaker. We need to try to get back above 281 or else look at 277 as the main support. If that fails us, I'm looking for 272. On Amazon, we pumped and reject exactly as I predicted so far. This is going to be at risk of returning to 228 or below. This also looks like a more distributive pattern from a white coffee perspective. So it's a little bit weak right now. Meta is going to be testing 710 and needs to hold this. If not, we could be dipping close to 700 flat before we see an attempt to bounce. For Microsoft, we could be dipping closer to about this like 408 area, maybe a little bit below that. So we'll see how that goes. And Google could be dipping back down towards like 185 to 183, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So honestly, guys, we'll see what Jerome Powell causes during his speech today. He's going to be testifying from the U.S. Senate. So when they hammer him with questions, we will see if the market bounces temporarily or not. But even if we do get a small bounce, as long as this head and shoulders is still valid on SPY, I would still be kind of concerned for Tesla and the broader markets, just to be very frank. And then secondly, I just want to mention that, sorry, this is the head and shoulders right here. And then secondly, I just want to mention that, Donald Trump is about to announce tariffs very soon. He says he's going to do it either today or tomorrow on specific countries. And if he does this, the EU is going to retaliate. Other countries are not going to be happy about it. So just keep that in mind, guys. There's going to be a trade war that's continuing, and that every time Donald Trump mentions that he wants to announce new tariffs, the market has been dipping, at least temporarily, right? There's this example right here. The news on Friday, he was going to announce new tariffs. The market dumped just to rebound a bit on Monday. But now, once he makes the official announcement, I do expect this to most likely dip. So keep that in mind. Just a temporary move, guys. Not saying it's going to last forever, but that could drag Tesla down. Anyways, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening. Peace out.